Hey guys, this is Denny.
And this is James from TeaDB. Today we are drinking something I've never had before.
Yeah, so episode 33.
Yes, we think that's right.
I think that's right. I don't know. Episode 33. This is an offering that I purchased actually from a local tea vendor, Grace, who runs a tea shop in the International District here in Seattle called New Century Tea. And it's just a really beautiful old ripe puer. And so this is from the Fuhai factory. Apparently that stands for Lucky Star.
We speak Chinese.
I don't know. But the tea is beautiful. It's wonderful. And I'm excited to share it with James.
Cool. And so what year is this tea coming from?
This is a 97, so 1997. So it's for a ripe puer. It's pretty old.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so it was a little pricey for me. It was a treat, and something that I haven't drank a lot of, but I had some last night and really, really enjoyed it again. So, yeah, let's go for it.
Cool. Let's have it.
So, I'm going to say this is maybe 140 milliliters.
Yep, that's about right.
We're going to use 8-9 grams of tea leaf. I like to have kind of 2 or 3 big chunks, and then a bunch of kind of smaller chunks, whatever you like to do.
Yep.
No
the
big
bigger
deal.
the bigger the chunks, the longer it will take for them to come apart. Right. A cake like this is probably like just because it's been aged for a while, it probably comes apart a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. It's probably before the super iron compact methods of like Shogwan or something like that.
Right.
So it'll probably give us some flavor pretty soon. We won't have to wait until like the 8th steeping or something like that, like you will for some of these teas.
So for this one, actually, I like to do a little bit of a long rinse and then go ahead and just start drinking it.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the super compressed puers, it's sometimes easy to give it 2 sort of quick rinses. Both of them very hot. I like to give them like 30 seconds, a minute in between, and they just open up much faster. But with something like this, where you want to drink as much of it as you can, I find that if I steep it for a good chunk of time, rinse it rather for a good chunk of time, it opens up nicely. The first steeping is really lovely. Cool. So this is about long enough. Go ahead and just pour this, and you'll see the difference between the rinse, the first steeping, and the second steeping be very dramatic in terms of the color.
Cool.
Yeah, but look how red that is.
And so, what do you think the age will do? Like, this is a 97 brick, but obviously it's a cooked or ripe puer. Mm-hmm. What will the age do to that versus like a green or a raw puer?
Well, I believe it or not, my actual experience with ripe has been that the flavor doesn't change too much, but some of the notes get a little bit more pronounced. High notes and low notes. I know that you talk about that sometimes. And the smoothness really just kind of. So with Sheng puer, a raw puer, I noticed just that the flavor with age does change a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's because the fermentation process is happening as we as it ages effectively. Right. But with the case of a cooked tea, if it's fully cooked, some teas will be half cooked and half not. Interesting. Half cooked, then it will develop some of that complexity. But yeah. So I'm assuming this tea is fully cooked.
That's correct. In the actual cake, it's pretty easy to pull this guy apart, so definitely not super compressed.
Yep.
So with a tea like this, I'm using a lot of leaf, so it's done steeping. And even on the first steeping of this tea, with that short of a steep time, the color is really rich, and it'll be a nice full-bodied tea. And the beauty of doing something like this is that you're using a big chunk of the leaf that you purchased, and I only purchased about 4 ounces of this, not even a whole brick, but we're going to get 10 steepings out of this. 10 good steepings.
Cool.
Yeah, so let's give this a go.
Denny told me before when I asked him about this tea that he bought, he described it as very, very smooth. And I would say that is pretty accurate for what we're drinking.
So, yeah, velvety, smooth. Very much like your normal ripe puer, but just I don't know, like
You also described
nice
the
and subtle.
texture. It's kind of got that nice, long, silky texture that kind of sticks along your tongue and your mouth, which is very, very, very nice.
And especially for just the first steeping of this with only one rinse, the body and the texture of this tea is lovely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that if you're drinking ripe puer at home, you can totally mess up ripe puer. Use way too much tea, steep it forever, and it'll be very forgiving. But with your really great quality tea of any sort, it's good to just to pay attention to it. And so I found that this steeping method has worked really, really, really well.
Cool. Yeah, so very, very... And how are we going to change the steep times as we kind of steep this guy out for like the third or fourth steeping?
Yeah, I mean, as we've said on the show a bunch of times, you're going to want to play it by ear and feel. So much of tea is an art, not a science. It's how it tastes. It's how you want it to taste. So in this case, the next steeping is going to be just as short and more intense. The next steeping will probably be just as short and probably similar to the steeping. And then we'll probably extend the steep time a little bit and maybe reheat the water. But if we're doing something where it's kind of a pretty like bang back-to-back pouring and drinking session like we usually do, the actual the Yixing will stay nice and warm.
Yep,
so
that's true.
Don't need to reheat that much.
And another advantage of using the Yixing versus kind of a porcelain gaiwan is that this will just retain heat much better. And that's an example of why, for instance, when we had Crimson Lotus on the show, when they had a gaiwan, it was kind of this nice, thick, part clay gaiwan.
Yeah.
And so it just retained heat much, much better than porcelain. Which can be good for your green oolongs and stuff like that. But when you're drinking a tea like this, then you want to retain that heat real well.
And we can see that the tea leaves themselves are opening up really nicely inside of the Yixing here, and they'll get even bigger.
Sweet.
Yeah, and so let's go for the second steeping here. Similar brewing parameters, so we're basically going to pour, give it a little bit of a twirl, and then... Oop, got a little stuck. And then, there you go. Thank you, sir. And then we're ready to go. I love this Yixing.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, and so, there's a couple of reasons, like, you might be like, oh, what's the point in aging a ripe puer and stuff like that? Well, one of the reasons I talked about a little bit earlier is simply that there are a lot of mixes, and sometimes companies, like, blends are especially a big thing for ripe puers. So people will have, some raw leaves and some ripe leaves, and the more raw leaves you have, as the age comes into those, it'll add some additional complexity to it. So that's one way to achieve kind of complexity with what can predominantly be a ripe tea. And the other reason is what happens is there's like this real stank. And that's not even like necessarily an exaggeration. This like really fishy, nasty smell you'll get on these really, really new cakes. And it can take a year, 2 years, 3 years to wear off. So that is another reason to drink ripe puer a little bit aged. And certainly that's not the case with this. I'm sure this had its stank removed in the early millennium, but
yeah,
it's quite nice.
Yeah, let's go ahead and give it a second shot.
Yeah, even better, stronger flavors, a little bit of vanilla, still got that nice texture.
Definitely getting, I say vanilla, maybe like a little bit of like dark stone fruit, dark cherries, maybe a little tartness in there, like a little bit of fruit, but nothing crazy. It's like not chocolatey, it's not grassy, it's not corny, it's not barley like.
Yep, no touch of bitterness at all.
Not at all.
Yep.
Yeah, really, it's good.
Very smooth. Yeah. Super drinkable.
And for something like this, I'm, sitting here really appreciating it, and it did cost me a pretty penny. And so I would encourage everybody who's watching the show, or if you're buying some nicer teas, have your teas that you are at work and you're drinking, and have your teas that you wake up to. But also have those teas for those like special occasions where you're with someone who really appreciates it, knows what they're talking about, or maybe not, but they love wine or are just open-minded and appreciative of things in general, and share this with them. Or share something that you love with them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't put this on during like a Mariners game or something like that. Not that I would watch those. But yeah, no, I mean, like, this is a tea, like many of the teas we drink, I feel like I say this quite often in TeaDB. It's a good tea that should be enjoyed and should be given proper attention, really.
Yeah, totally. So this will keep going on and on. We'll keep on drinking this bad boy. The viscosity and the depth of color will change before the flavor will change, and then the flavor will lose slowly. You can even, Grace actually recommended this to me. She said that after like the 12th steeping, you could literally pull the leaves out, soak them in a little bit of water, and then throw them on a kettle, or throw them on your stove and boil them, and just to get every ounce. And she was trying to sell me a 92 cake. And I was like, okay, I gotta draw the line a little bit here. I also got some really great green tea from her too. We'll have to bring them to the show. She was nice. Yeah, I'm loving this. It just feels like the perfect season to be drinking ripe puer. So
definitely.
Yeah. Awesome.
So where can we learn more about tea, ripe puer, and that kind of thing?
There is this thing called the internet. These people invented, I think it was
Al Gore. Al Gore. I aced that one on trivia.
I almost said
night.
or Bill Gore, which would have been the perfect combination of Microsoft and I don't even know. Anyway, TeaDB.org is where you should find out more about tea. Go ahead and check us out. James has a ton of really great reading content. We have a bunch of videos. If you're into the YouTubes, go ahead and subscribe to our channel.
Yep.
If you're watching this and you're not watching it on YouTube, I don't know where you're watching it. So go ahead and subscribe. It'd be great. Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or through the YouTube channel or whatever.
Twitter.
On the blog.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going to wrap it for episode 33. See you guys next time.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.
Cheers.